Welcome to the Armchair GM's podcast with your hosts Dylan Simpson and Chris Ruback.
Welcome to episode 3 from the Armchair GM Podcast. I'm Chris. You know Dylan. We're getting ready to roll. This week we're going to do a quick little recap of the week that was for the Calgary Flames. There's 3 games in there. We're going to do a wee bit of Monahan talk because it deserves to be talked about. We did have a trade deadline. It is a hot topic, right? And for good reason. We had a trade deadline that happened a couple of days ago. We're going to do a bit of a recap. Got 3 trades. Well, I guess technically 2 trades on the deadline that Calgary made. Plus, we're going to get into how expensive is your defenseman.
Yeah, no doubt.
Because holy shit, there is some. It was impressive. Maybe talk a little bit about some, former Flame, some other things that happened at the deadline, and I really want to finish off with a wee bit of Brad talk and a trade that he made a couple of weeks ago. So is that it wasn't quite as expensive, and quite frankly, I think it's been working out well. So, what do you think? We played 3 games since we last spoke. We played 1 game at home against Buffalo in an OT loss of 1-0. Goaltending shit the bed on that game clearly. It was a disaster of a game. It really was.
The whole game was a disaster. The Buffalo game was hard to watch for a lot of it. Buffalo wasn't outstanding either.
No.
But Calgary definitely is a much better team than Buffalo and didn't really.
We've seen it in years past where Calgary just kind of plays to the competition. And this was a perfect example of it. I mean, we come off a 6-3 win against the Devils, which, obviously should be how that is, minus the 3 we allowed, but that's fine. But then to host Buffalo and not score a goal in 3.5 periods, come on, that's brutal.
Yeah.
Which,
to be fair, Tokarski made what some people are saying the save of the season on Yarncroke, and I'm not sure if I'm ready to call it the save of the season. It was definitely
a good save.
Pretty great save.
Yeah.
And he made some really, really good saves. So did Markstrom. Both teams, had their opportunities, but
was that the shot that we discovered that Yarncroke can shoot both ways?
I don't think so. I know he can do face-offs on both ways too, but I don't think that was the one that we figured out he can shoot both ways. Yeah. It might be though.
Yeah, it wasn't a. It's really cool, right? You got a fair bit of wood on that one shot. I just can't. I guess looking back at it, it really wasn't an amazing save for that one. So I don't think that's the one they're talking about. So yeah, obviously it was just we just kind of notch it up and just move on with that game.
Yeah, I was ready.
Got a point.
Yeah, I was ready to move on from that. Obviously, the Flames weren't the Flames that game.
Yeah.
And they went on to Vancouver.
The next night too, right?
Kind of put on a clinic. Let's be honest. And
first 30 minutes of the game, 100%. That was an ass kicking on every level.
Quite on again. That game, if it weren't for Demko made some crazy saves that game too. And he got the end of the second he got pulled.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and he if it wasn't for Demko, that game could have been an 8 spot.
I was going to say that 8-0.
Yeah.
That was you cannot fault him for any of that game.
No.
Flames were hot. They were coming in very aggressive, and they had. What was the possession in the first period? It had to be around 75 to 80%.
Yeah, it was. We had the puck the entire first period, most of the second period, and honestly, it just looked like. And I wanted to talk a little bit about that game because that was the game that they put Backlund and Kachuk back together.
Right.
And
they look good
out on
together.
the first line.
Yeah.
And to me, I know that a lot's been made out of this in the last little bit, but Kachuk and Backlund have always been a really, really good pair since the second Kachuk, stepped in after being drafted. And honestly, it is so good to know that they still have that.
Yeah.
Because I've been worried that, if Lindholm takes a step back, which, you can't really see happening, or if he gets injured, in the playoffs, because often
shut your mouth.
Players get injured in the playoffs and need a game or two off. Backlund isn't really a number one center at all. But if he can play, if he needs to play for a game or two in between Gaudreau, who last game he took a beautiful feed from, and made a really nice play on it and scored, and Kachuk, who they've had this chemistry for so long, then if he needs to play a game or two there, I wouldn't hate it.
No, that's very true. They've always had that chemistry, and you could tell right away that Backlund was really happy with having Kachuk back, even though I think at some point, was it last year, year before? I think it was last year. We're talking about that maybe Backlund wasn't necessarily happy with Kachuk. That was that whole puck flip incident. Like during that time, when we're trying to speculate and figure out who was the, I'm going to say rat in the room, right? That wouldn't defend his teammate, and there seemed to be animosity within the group. And there was speculation that potentially it was Backlund. And I mean, to be honest, at least from my eyes, from what I saw on Saturday, is I don't think there's any there. That they looked like they were having fun again playing together. It was nice to see.
Yeah, and I mean, some of that might be success, right? Like,
sure,
a lot of the time, a lot of the time, success helps. Like, even myself, I've worked with people I haven't, been the best of friends with, and then absolutely killed it. Found some work chemistry with those people, and all of a sudden we're fucking tight the next day, right? Like, it
absolutely
happens.
Yeah, for sure it does. Yeah, that's a fair point.
Yeah. So Vancouver was a good game.
Vancouver was a good game. We had 2 nights off, and then hosted San Jose last night, and
started good. Started really good.
Yeah. And then we discovered
Is that where we end?
Yeah, like I don't even know what else to say there. Like after 15 minutes of the first period, it was just, it was a shit show. It really was.
Yeah. It's hard to watch, and like San Jose is one of those teams that has, in the recent past, even through a partial rebuild and a retool, and then all those years that they were, competitive in the playoffs every year, the Thornton Marlowe years, the Pavelski years, they always played really well against the Flames. And when they had Evander Kane, he would put up 4 goals a game against, like, they've always had a number, and I just don't know why.
Yeah, it's weird. Like, even the last game we played against them, wasn't San Jose, their lineup was just decimated from COVID or something like that, wasn't it? And we pretty much played their AHL team and couldn't even beat them. So it's just something about the fucking teal that just gets us right now. Yeah.
I don't know.
I guess we just have to always have a stretch where we're losing to a California team. Is that where we're at?
Maybe. I don't know. It could be like you were talking about with Buffalo, the playing down to your opponents. But you'd figure Sutter, especially after the Buffalo game only being like less than a week before that and only 2 games before that, you'd figure Sutter, out of any coach in the league, would kind of be, harping on them to not let that happen.
100%. Which I'm sure he was, right?
Yeah.
I'm sure he was. It just, for whatever reason, it just got out of hand. Markstrom got frustrated. after they flipped the puck in behind him there on that play.
I gotta say, I love Sutter's move at the end of the game, post game,
Yeah,
to not, because he's been the post game interview for the last however many months, and he threw Jason LaBarbera out there, who
some might call it under the bus.
Yeah, well, it was 100% under the bus, and even one of the reporters asked him, like, how long has it been since you've done a post game interview, and he said, oh, it's got to be at least 10 years.
Yeah,
like
yeah. Yeah,
and that was when he was playing for Edmonton, probably.
Yeah, I was kind of blown away by it. Waiting, because I'm sure it was just a way for him to not have to go out there, because I'm positive he was just seething, as were most Flames fans. Like, it was just just really was a bad game all around.
So I was kind of lucky there. I watched the first two periods, and I believe we were still up, but I had to work at midnight. Every once in a while, it doesn't happen super often, but every once in a while I have to crash because I haven't been able to sleep or whatever. But every once in a while I have to miss a third period. But
well, I mean, just we'll send your tie plaque this way and whatnot for real fans and watch the whole game.
Yeah, no doubt. Not like I didn't go and watch it later.
Right.
But every once in a while,
Yeah, it's a must.
So I realize, we're allowed to have a shit game every once in a while, and all good teams can have a shit game every once in a while. But I feel like it's been happening every second or third game in the last.
Yeah, it has been a struggle for a bit.
And it could be partially because of the ridiculous schedule there, but who knows?
I'm sure it doesn't help, right?
Yeah, it's slightly worrisome. I'm not gonna say it's the end of the world, or I'm not ready to, sell the team or anything stupid like that. I'm just, it's on my radar.
Yeah, we've even had a couple of games in the month of March where I feel we shouldn't have won, but have.
Yeah.
Where we've had some pretty good goaltending, and then, quite frankly, followed up, the next game with some shoddy goaltending. But I'm not blaming goaltending on any of our losses. It's been a team lack of effort, I'll call it.
Yeah, and the thing is most games we've played this year, the goaltending and the team has been really good.
Yeah.
And the team, on many nights, the team hasn't shown up as well. The goaltending has shown up tenfold. There was the game against the Leafs, I think, that Vladar even played, that was absolutely lights out. We shouldn't have won that game.
The one on the road in Toronto?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, that was a great win.
Yeah. And I don't think we should have won that. And
no.
But the thing is every once in a while, if the goaltending is, Markstrom's allowed to have a bad night, Vladar's allowed to have a bad night.
Totally. Yeah.
The team needs to pick it up,
Well, that's right.
When the team sucks, the team picks it up when the goaltending sucks. That's,
Isn't that what they call a team?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But I mean, and that's, people are harping on Vladar for the Washington game there on the second half of a back-to-back against one of them, arguably the best goal scorer of all time, and then we're gonna get angry at Vladar for that game. Give me a break.
What was it, the fifth game in 7 days or something, and back-to-back against Ovechkin, who I believe, I could be wrong, but I believe they were waiting for us in Calgary for 3 days or something. Come on.
Didn't they play Edmonton on the Friday or Saturday? They played Edmonton on Saturday and played us on Tuesday.
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. They were just hanging out in the mountains, having a good time, relaxing.
Probably in Banff or some shit, just partying.
Yeah. Meanwhile, we're playing Colorado and then Edmonton and then going back to back against Washington. Like,
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
They were tired? Weird.
Yeah. And you see, those are ones that I'm okay with putting away and
Yeah, totally.
kind of throwing to the side and being like, oh, whatever, shit happens.
Yeah.
But again, we've had a few of them, and good teams find a way to win those more often than not, and it hasn't been more often than not in the last
Yeah.
weeks, I want to
But
say.
that's true. And I mean, for the month of March, for as hectic as our schedule has been, and I guess will kind of continue to be, we've had 3 overtime games. So even if, there's been 2 that we've lost there, one against Montreal, one against Buffalo. But we're at least picking up a point and not losing ground in the standings. So
We're not giving up the extra point to teams in our division.
that's right.
Which is
Exactly.
good.
That's right. Yeah, the 2 we
Not
left
that
were
we've been good
Eastern.
against our division, but
Yeah. But we played a lot of games against the East this year. It feels like, at least in groups, like even at home, right? We got, Montreal, and then we have Washington, and Tampa, and Detroit, Jersey, and Buffalo. Like there's been a lot of games in clusters against the East, and so it's a good way to gain some ground. But I mean, if they really go on a shit run there, it's a good way to lose some. So I guess thankfully they've been pretty decent against them.
Absolutely. Well, shall we move on to a little bit of trade deadline talk?
Trade deadline talk, or do we want to talk about one of the big factors from last night? And I mean, I'll say big factor for the last 2 months, but in my boy here, I brought some popcorn for him because I feel like he's going to spend a bit of time in the presser watching some games. No offense to Sean as a human being. That guy, number 23. Man alive. Talk about your fall from grace. And I mean, and it's got to be nothing more than attributed to injury.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I mean, he goes from a guaranteed 20, 30 plus goal scorer to what he is now, like just a shell of his former self. And it's sad to watch, but I mean, we're talking about a team that's trying to make moves and make plays to get on a decent, hopefully, run in the playoffs. And quite frankly, number 23 is just not helping out the case. I mean,
no, he's not. And
last year 10 goals so far. This year 8 goals. And minus 16. Like his 5-on-5 has just been atrocious.
Minus 16, and like we have 3 of the best plus players in the league, and he's a minus 6. That's rough.
Yeah,
that's rough.
Yeah, it's super rough.
I want to preface my thoughts about Monahan. He used to be my favorite Flame for a couple of years. I still like Monahan, the person, as far 100%. As I know.
Yeah, absolutely.
I understand why he was signed to a $6+ million long-term contract when he was 22 or whatever it was.
Yeah.
It made 100% sense, and I wouldn't trade whatever GM it was at the time. Was it Feaster? Who knows?
Sounds about right.
Yeah, whichever GM it was at the time, I wouldn't expect them to do anything different than that. I
mean, he was centering our top line for 7 years, 6 years,
6 years, and the 1 year he wasn't. He didn't have Gaudreau, and he was still got 22 goals on the third line, playing with I can't even remember who. David Jones, was it?
Yeah.
David Moss.
Jones? David Moss, yeah.
Yeah, David Moss.
Damn.
Yeah. One of the Davids.
Yeah.
Either way, the thing is, and Sutter said it a couple weeks ago in a post game press conference, not talking about Monahan. I forget who he was talking about, but this is a "What have you done for me lately" league, right?
It really
What
is,
Monahan
right?
done for us lately is handcuff the fourth line.
Yep.
Don't get me wrong, Luch hasn't been great either. The last couple weeks, Luch hasn't been great, but Monahan, I understand giving a veteran a couple weeks or a month of leeway, to find their game or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But it is now like 2 fucking years.
Yeah. Well, exactly. And last year was such a crazy year with the way the schedule was and being Canada tied and all that fun stuff. So I mean, last year was a weird one. I really don't blame players for any shit that happened last year, though he was our number one center for majority of that of last season. And I mean, to end the season with 10 goals is sorry. I mean, I understand the injuries and and things are not going well for you, but yeah, at some point you just got to suck it up and play your new role. I honestly thought he would be okay on the third line, but he's even lost that spot. He's on the fourth now, and so we need that fourth line to be that grinding line, that energy line, and I just it's super unfortunate.
And there's no, for me anyways, he has been putting in 100% effort. There's no question. The effort level is there. The leadership is there, apparently, from what I've heard in the locker room.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people use the term glue guy, and we're worried, like a lot of people who are close to the team were worried that if he got moved, that it would disrupt the inner workings of the team this year.
Well, that's right, and it's no secret that he's one of Johnny's best friends, right?
And that's kind of one thing I'm worried about with the offseason is if they have to move him to sign Johnny, is Johnny going to be best friends not here anymore?
Yeah.
And you let Buddy Robinson leave last year. My two best friends aren't here anymore.
I mean, my thought. I mean, me as a human being. My thought on that. Like, Johnny wants to win. Johnny's a winner.
No, I agree. I don't think he's gonna.
So I think even if there is a slight bit of animosity or frustration with that situation, I think Johnny at the end of the day will go, yeah, but look where we're at now, and let's go.
Yeah, and especially if they keep Kachuk too, which I don't see them not for at least the 1 year. Johnny and Lindholm and Kachuk, I don't see any of them being like, I don't really want to play with those two guys next season.
No, exactly. Yeah. You know what I'm tired of success. Yeah, individual success. I'm out of here. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, barring something drastic, I'm pretty sure they're going to be happy with it.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, they're... Yeah. I see them all coming back except for Monahan. He does have to be moved. But I think one of the reasons that we were bringing the whole Monahan thing up is we were, shockingly, me and Chris were online arguing with somebody who is super worried about Monahan's feelings about being on the fourth line, and if we scratch him, he's going to lose his confidence and blah 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 blah. And the way, I mean, I'm not going to put words in Chris's mouth, but I read some of the stuff he said, and I think we're pretty much on the same page. Is Monahan, Carpenter comes in and he's already higher on the depth chart than Monahan, which is sad.
That's super sad.
I'm not saying scratch Monahan for the rest of the season. I'm saying we need to give the new guy a chance. I think Lewis is going to be the guy who's out, because that he's just been a guy who's been scratched in the past, but I don't think Lewis deserves it, because Lewis has been an effective player.
He's been a super effective player, and he just works his ass off every game.
And Monahan has...
Not saying Monahan hasn't, but...
Monahan works hard, but he's had about 5 good games this season.
Yeah.
We're what 63 games in or something. I could be wrong, but that's not a lot of good.
Well,
games.
yeah, and the way you look at it, I mean, Sean effectively started the season. Well, he started at least training camp on the first line, and he dropped down, second, third. Now he's on the fourth. Where Lewis started on the fourth, and he's now playing on the second. And there's a reason for that.
Sometimes, yeah,
not all, yeah, but that shutdown role is such an important role, especially in Sutter's books, right?
And so we were going up against a fully healthy McKinnon, Rantanen, Landeskog.
Yeah.
No, all three in the lineup, all three healthy. And what did Sutter do? He was like, oh, you know what? We're going to have Backlund, Coleman, and Lewis.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, Lewis? Why Lewis?
Yeah.
And those of us who pay enough attention, we're kind of like, well, because super responsible, probably never seen him play with Backlund before that, but who knows?
I mean, they were pretty effective. And we won the game.
And we won the game.
Right? Not saying they're the reason why, but they're definitely the reason why we didn't lose.
Yeah. We won the game with our 7th defenseman on our second pair.
Right.
On his offside.
Which I know we talked about it last week, but I'll give Stone that props again for that move on McKinnon. Because it was such a basic move, and it's what they teach you when you're very young. But you know what? Doing that move against one of the fastest players in the league, one of the most dynamic players in the league.
You played one game, 3 months ago.
It was just like, yeah. God, I love Stone. I miss a shot. I just miss watching him on the ice. I really am. You and I are both on that same page with Stone.
Yeah. Absolutely. But yeah. Yeah.
So there's Monahan, right? It's unfortunate. It's really sad that his injuries have really come to haunt him. His body is shutting down. He's only 27. He's kind of the way his body is reacting to him right now. You would think that he's 35, but it's just the way it is. Unfortunately, it's the way it is.
It's sad, and I'm sure he's going to come back and be an effective 3rd or 4th line center for some team in the future. Yeah. But unfortunately, his salary and effectiveness don't fit the Flames for next year.
Yeah,
and his honestly, his effectiveness doesn't fit the Flames for this year, to the point where I'd rather have, Carpenter, who I've never seen play with the Flames.
Well, that's right. And we need to get him into games, right? Before the playoffs. We need to know what we have there. Maybe he has, maybe he develops some chemistry with somebody and it becomes a great pairing. Who knows? Right?
Yeah.
And
or maybe it kicks Monahan in the ass. Like I'm not going to sit here and say, I think that a couple games off is going to make Monahan better.
No.
Because I think he's past that this year at least.
For sure.
But there's always the off chance that it could, make him take a look in the mirror and work on the things that he needs to work on to get back into the lineup, and then come back into the lineup and maybe pot a couple of big goals, even if he's not scoring at a 30 or 20 goal pace, even if he comes back and, somebody gets injured in the playoffs and Monahan comes back and pots a couple of big ones. Like that's.
Yeah, well, that's right. And that's all you can hope for. I mean, like continuing to play the way he's playing is doing nothing for his confidence. Pulling him out for
nothing for
a few games. Yeah, exactly. It's not doing anything for his confidence. So the only thing that's going to help his confidence is pucks going in the net. So whether he gets 1 or 2 lucky ones, some puck luck, great. I mean, I'm all for it. But yeah, as it sits right now, it's just it's time to see what we have within the organization. Let's get this team ready.
Yep.
We have a very limited amount of time to see what we have for the playoffs, because if this team is another first round and out team, as far as I'm concerned, the entire season is a fucking failure. Like we're at this point. Brad has actually spent spent some assets and some money to get this team going. So,
and we're gonna lose some really good players too.
Sure, yeah.
If the players, like, yes, I think Johnny's gonna resign, but I think that also depends on some further
Totally.
success than he's seen in the last 6 years or whatever.
Yeah.
Right. I think it's gonna take, at the very least, game 6 of the second round. At the very least.
At the very least, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and I mean, not that I'm going anywhere either, but I mean, we watch these seasons and just first round out. It's just like, oh, I don't know if I can physically take it either. I might become Sean Monahan next year with my fandom.
Yeah, right. Well,
yeah, that's not happening. Sorry, I'm better than that. I'm 48 years old and I ain't going anywhere. I'm physically ready for playoffs. Let's fucking go.
So
what do you think? Should we go in trades?
Yeah, sure. Let's start with what have you thought about Yarncroke so far? I mean, we got him for a second and a third and a seventh. The seventh was for the $1 million holding of
salary, right?
Seattle's.
Yeah.
So we can fit him in our cap. What do you think?
So far, I've been actually pretty happy with what I'm seeing. I think he'll be a solid middle six, up and down. I think he could play. I think he would play well with Backlund.
Yep.
But I think third line is likely where he'll be. But I've been happy with him. Like he's defensively responsible.
I also think if Backlund were to get hurt or something, he would be a good Backlund.
Yeah, that's fair. Or and Lindholm in the same situation. If we have to put Backlund up for a game or two, he could slide into that into that second line role too, right?
Yeah. So I used the term, poor man's. I used to say Lindholm is a poor man's Patrice Bergeron.
Right.
I think last week I said something ridiculous about Shillington being a poor man's Erik Karlsson,
right.
because of the horrid defense and the offensive upside. But I honestly, and I'm not saying this just because they're cousins, but how they play out there, Yarncroke is very much a poor man's Elias Lindholm. Yeah.
Well, it's just, I me, I love players that just go to work, right?
Yep.
They just quietly go about their day. They're good at retrieving pucks. They're good at digging in the corners. They've got a shot. We've discovered he can shoot left or right, which is, I had no idea. I think it's pretty neat. I really like his game. Obviously, he's not at the level of Lindholm, and that, and I know that, but it's been good. It's been refreshing to bring somebody in that I think we didn't pay that much for, given the timing, right?
Me neither. You know what? Could Brad have done a little better on that? Probably. But I'm not going to sit here and nitpick. I feel like nitpicking that, trying to pick this trade apart is...
Yeah, you're looking for fault, right?
Yeah, it's nitpicking on a whole other level that you don't need to go out and do, especially since he's a player that fits and the players like him and half of them know him from before or are family with him. And
I think that
are bothering the GM to go out and get him.
Well, that's right. I think chemistry, personal chemistry, is worth the 2023 third, personally.
Yeah.
Given that he's best friends with Markstrom, cousins with Lindholm, and just another Swede. So I'm sure there's that comfort level.
Played world championships with Backlund too.
That's right.
I was listening to a podcast with Backlund the other day earlier today, and learned that actually.
The and he's been, like in his last 3 games with Calgary, his face-off percentage has been pretty goddamn good. 53.8, 61.1, 66.7. He has 1 assist in the 3 games.
Which is just fine for a third liner.
Yeah, that's right. And in the 3 games, he's sitting at a plus minus of 0, which is fine. The first game and last night's game, he was sitting at around, I guess he would have averaged about 12 minutes 45. The game against Vancouver, he was up and around 17, so he had more of a role there. It's everything. It's really everything you want to add for depth on your team.
Yeah. And I just want to point out that 1 assist that he has, that was his hard work. That wasn't just like he touched the puck, he passed the puck. He worked for the puck. He dug for the puck, he got the puck, and then he made a nice pass.
Yeah, absolutely. And given, so, he'll be 31 when the season starts next year. Would you be comfortable giving him a 2-year, $2 million contract to kind of match what he's getting paid right now?
That's pretty much exactly where I'd put him. And yeah, I would. And the thing, 2 years, that's when Lindholm's contract expires too.
Yeah.
And let's be honest, we get rid of Monahan. Maybe get rid of a couple other players. $2 million is not the hardest thing to fit into a, for a third line. I'd assume probably Ruzicka is going to be up next season on the third line, so he'll probably end up being a third line winger.
Yeah,
maybe second line winger or center when there's a.
Oh, that's right. We have the big boys to sign this off season, hopefully, and then after that we're going to have to start utilizing more of the young guns, right? Coming in from the
cheap guys.
Yeah, we're going to have more $750,000 contracts. Even if we just add 3 of those next season. Let's see where we go, right? And then that just gives us a bit more flexibility, right? Because obviously, we know Shillington's getting a raise. We know Mangiapane's getting a raise. We know Kachuk is going to make at least what he is making on the cap this year, probably a bit more. Obviously, Johnny's getting a fucking substantial raise.
So I'm going to make a weird prediction on this, and people are going to hate me for it. And it's not because I want it to happen. It's just because I think it's going to happen.
Okay.
I think that Mangiapane and his agent, who don't want a long-term contract, are going to force Calgary to either spend too much, which they won't do, or they're going to trade his RFA rights, would be my guess, in the offseason. In order to sign the defenseman and the 2 first liners.
Yeah.
That's my.
I could, what, and I can honestly see that. I don't like the way the Mangiapane camp has done business as far as contracts thus far. So I can actually see them doing something like that.
Yeah, me too.
I mean, I understand that, let's, bank on myself or whatever is bet on yourself and get your contract. But at some point you gotta fucking sign a 5-year. You know what I mean?
Do you see him I don't know if banking on himself is a good idea for him, to be brutally honest.
I don't.
I think that it's great that he's on pace for 40 goals.
Right.
I don't think he'll make 30, most years of his career. So
I don't either.
Not that I don't think he's good. I think he's a great player, but I think he's more of a 2025 guy. He's just had a couple of crazy streaks this year.
He has, right? He started the season so freaking hot, especially on the road. And then once November hit, he went on like a 2-month hiatus.
Yeah.
Right. So he had that gap, and in that hiatus, he wasn't getting points with assists, whether it be primary or secondary.
He wasn't doing all that much.
No,
honestly, most games.
Exactly. Like, to me, it was like, okay, leading up to November, it's just like, holy Christ, what are we gonna have to pay this kid? And then for me, it dropped down like instantly. Like,
and here's like, it's really unfair to really compare anyone to Lindholm, really. Right. But when Lindholm isn't producing points and goals, Lindholm is producing excellent defense and great forecheck and incredible stick skills and leadership. Whereas when Mangiapane is not, there's been some games, but generally speaking, when he's not producing points, he's not producing, and when he's not producing goals, he's not producing assists either. Although he's gotten a little better at that lately, but still, he's on pace for 40 goals. But I mean, you get 40 goals and end up with 68 points. You know what I mean? Like he's not. He doesn't help his line mates ever. Yeah,
like his line mates help him.
Yeah.
And, he does drive the net and he does get some goals on his own merit, and all of his goals are his own merit. That's a bad.
All of his goals, So he is a very talented goal scorer.
Yeah. So that, like I said, that's a bad choice of words on my part.
Yeah.
But he's also the recipient of being in slot and at one time, because he's pretty damn good at it as well. You know what I mean? So,
and he's also the recipient, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that the amount that he loses edges and falls over and dives because of it throws goaltenders off and throws defenders off. And I don't think it's that he's trying to. I think that he's Bobby Orring it, and it's kind of, he accidentally trips over somebody and falls, and he has an amazing ability to finish while he's in midair. He's done it quite a few times.
He does do that. And I think, it's hard to say, right? Because he's
even made a couple of nice passes.
He's on his ass or on his side more times than any player. Yeah, exactly. And whether it be he just got knocked over, he's been tripped, or somebody tapped his lace and it makes him fucking. Yeah. It's bizarre to watch him on the ice. So I don't know if he's. I guess he does hunch over when he skates, right? So I suppose that you have that balancing. So any sort of touching, you're over, right? So maybe that's what it is. But yeah, you're right. Like he does spend a lot of time on the ice and not on his feet, which we've talked about this numerous times in the past, and I just hate that shit. I really do.
Yeah,
it's just like,
and don't get me wrong, like that thing about Mangiapane slightly annoys me, but most of his game, most of the time, I like.
Sure.
But most of his game, most of the time, isn't going to be worth the $5.5-6 million.
That's right.
That he wants, especially if it's going to be for 1 year and then he walks, when we could instead use that $5.5-6 million to keep 3 other guys longer term who are, I don't want to say more effective, because none of them are 40 goal potential guys, but they're more consistent and they're likely to stay at the level. Gaudreau's likely to stay at the 80 to 100 point level, and Kachuk's likely to stay at the 70 to 90 point range throughout their careers, whereas Mangiapane's not so likely to hit, Alex Ovechkin goal numbers for the rest of his career. Right?
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah, exactly. He's not going to be a 50 goal scorer in his life, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I mean, it would be nice, but I'd be willing.
I know that was a little bit of an exaggeration, but
So how much more do you pay him over his 2.425 that he's currently making?
He's at what, 2.4?
Yeah, 2.425.
It really depends on if they want. I'd be comfortable with like 4.75 to 5 if it's long term. If he wants to stay long term,
okay,
which his agent has already said no.
Yeah, which is so. I'm interested to know if that's coming from Andrew himself, or is that coming from his agent?
That was his agent.
Yeah, see, that's where you fire your
That's
agent.
what that article said. And that was a couple months ago. So things change.
Yeah.
But as far as I know, that's still kind of what they're looking at. As far as I know.
Yeah.
What would you do?
On 4 years or 5 years, I'd be comfortable with 4 only.
4 max.
Yeah. Until he starts to actually make others around him better, I don't want to venture into the close to 5 or more range.
So here's a question.
Yeah.
I guess we're going to kind of touch on it later too, but see, I don't find Toffoli as a player who makes those around him better.
Okay.
He makes that and he deserves that, but he is a player that he doesn't make those around him better, but he makes defense. He's good enough defensively and strong enough on his skates
that
he can make a strong defensive play. That's not making other guys better like a Crosby would do, but it's making other guys get opportunities.
Sure. Yeah, and I agree with that. And
that's why he's got the 2 years left on his $4.5 million.
Yeah, 4.25 for 2 more years after this, right? And that's kind of where I'm comparing him to, because I personally think that Toffoli has more all around.
Yeah,
obviously, right? And so I think until we start seeing just a bit more responsibility from Andrew, which obviously we have to know between now and the end of the year. I get it. So I don't think that it's going to actually be the case, but I believe that, to me, 4. I mean, I might be okay with 4.25, but I mean that would be like 4% of the cap, right?
Yeah,
4.5% of the cap. Like that's, I mean, he gets his goals, but he goes on those losing streaks, and if he's not, if he's not scoring, he's not effective.
Yeah, well, I mean, we both agree on that, and that's the. Like, I'm worried he's going after like 5.5, 6, and I'm like, if it's 5, I'd be a little disgusted at it, to be honest.
I agree.
I'd accept it if it was like 4.75. I'd be happy.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah. Anyways.
Yeah.
I guess back to trades.
Right?
Since this is the post-trade deadline episode.
Yeah. Not the future signings or the future contracts.
And mainly about that too. So
yeah.
Defenseman.
What the
fuck?
So I mean, yeah, if you're a defenseman, the time is now for your team to make a shitload of return by selling you off, i.e. Ben Sherratt from Montreal, who Florida acquired for 2023 first, 2022 fourth, and prospect Tyler Smilanic. I have no idea who he is, to be honest with you. I don't know much about him.
He's got a little bit of potential.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna, but the thing to me is expiring, and it's the same thing with Lindholm, Hampus Lindholm. again, Boston, we were talking about this earlier off the air, but Boston signed him after they acquired him.
Which to me, yeah, we'll get into my opinion on that, but on Lindholm. But yeah, you're right. Like for Ben, I tell you what, like if Florida doesn't win, this is going to look real bad.
Well, that's just it. And the thing is Sherratt on Florida, I guess they got lucky that they got him because they got unlucky that fucking Ekblad pulled an Ekblad 2 days later.
Right.
I don't say that with any disrespect because Ekblad is an elite player when he's on the ice, but he sure likes to be hurt. And that was a scary looking play. But for Florida, Sherratt would be a fourth, fifth with Ekblad in the lineup, a fourth or fifth defenseman, even a sixth defenseman.
Yeah.
And to pay a first round pick and a prospect and a fourth round pick to get, somebody who's playing in the bottom of your lineup is fucking absurd to me.
It's absurd to me as well, but I mean,
inspiring player too.
Yeah, because his contract's up at this year, and even at 3.5, I'm not paying him that either, but that's fine. The thing that, and they talk about it all the time, and I suppose I have to get around to it because I guess I hear it all the time, but I always freak out about the trades at trade deadline. You pay way more than what the players were at the trade deadline.
Absolutely.
So I don't know. I mean, Florida desperately needed at the very least depth on defense, which is what they just picked up. But yeah, I mean, what was it again? A second and a fourth?
For Sherratt?
Oh, a first and a fourth.
A first, a fourth, and a prospect.
Ooh, yeah.
And here's the thing. I can't remember if this one was this year's first or next year's first, but either way, Florida's bound to be pretty fucking good the next couple of years. So
I think so.
But the next 2 years, this year and next year, are going to be or should be, some of the deepest drafts in the first, in the recent past.
That's true. But also when you look at, given it's 2023's, it's the first in 2023. I mean, in theory, if they continue playing the way they have for the last couple of seasons, anyways, that first round pick is pretty much going to be a second round pick, anyways, because of where they're going to slot in that draft. But
yeah, but still, a first like it. How do I say it? Like a top of the second round.
Well, that's like I remember when we were chatting in the message board in Flames Hub with the admins, and I can't remember, it was either Matt or Steve brought up what Montreal was asking for him, and I'm like, get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
For a guy that wouldn't even really crack our defense, that we're going to spend that on him. Get out.
Yeah. And then so here's the thing, and I'm sure you agree with this, but Sherratt will be a full-time player even with Ekblad. In the lineup in Florida.
In Florida, yeah, exactly.
And people were fucking begging us to get Sherratt.
Yeah, he would have been a full-time player in Toronto. He would have been a full-time player in Edmonton. But he would have
been Edmonton's second defenseman.
I know. Isn't that terrifying?
Yeah.
But there's I'm going to say 8 teams where he wouldn't necessarily even crack the lineup.
And the Flames. And not because he's not better than Gudbranson or Zadorov. It's because they play so well together under the system that Sherratt would end up being that extra guy. And in no fucking circumstances should you be paying a first-round pick. Never mind first-round pick plus
plus.
a guy who's depth
Yeah,
at best.
if that's right. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I thought, like I said, I can't remember if it was Matt or Steve that said it. I thought they were kidding. Like, there's no goddamn way I'm paying that. Even if I'm Florida, right? Even if I mean, I would if I was Edmonton because they desperately need defense, but what they need more than defense even is goaltending.
Well,
Same with Toronto, right? But
the other thing is, like, how much better would Smith and Koskinen be if they had
good point.
some players helping them out every once in a while instead of hanging out in the offensive zone waiting for a pass?
Yeah. There's only so many times you can do laps around the center ice circle before you have to be called upon to play some defense in your own zone.
Yeah. And yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. So
I like Ben Sherratt, and I just don't like him for Calgary.
No, exactly.
And I'm really happy we didn't get him. I'm really happy we didn't get Lindholm, Hampus Lindholm. I don't know. I don't think there's a relation, is there?
I don't believe so.
Yeah. So
No,
Hampus Lindholm got a first, 2 seconds, a prospect, and an NHL defenseman in John Moore.
Yeah. So two prospect defensemen and NHL defenseman, 22 first, a 23 second, and a 24 second. That's a hell of a return. That's too much for Lindholm, the player, personally.
You know what? I agree. I think that Lindholm is better than Sherratt. I think that Lindholm wouldn't be upset if Shillington sat, and this is a person who's been crying for Shillington to play, for the last 4 years, but I wouldn't be upset if Shillington sat for Lindholm.
I agree.
But we didn't need Shillington to sit. I mean, he could probably
not at that price tag, right?
And not for like a first 2 seconds of prospect and an NHL defense. Like, that's fucked.
Yeah, and at the time, expiring contract of 5.2, which is likely. I mean, it's what he's worth.
Oh, you know what? I'd say he's on today's market. He's probably worth about 7 and a bit. But I mean, what did they say?
As it is right now, Boston believes he's worth 6.5.
Didn't they? I thought they signed him for 8.1. Or am I thinking of somebody else?
I think you're thinking about somebody else.
Okay.
But but for 8 fucking years too, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's incredible. Like, that's good on Lindholm, and quite frankly, good on Boston, right? They have some decent pieces at the back end, but they've been looking for, a good shutdown guy, since Chara left, right?
Basically.
And so, to be able to lock in that role, I think for 6.5 or 8 years. I mean, obviously the last, at least as far as I'm concerned, the last 3 years of that are going to look pretty horrendous, I believe. But
for sure.
But like, as it is right now, it's just shy of 8% of the cap, and he'll be what is he? How old is he now? 28. Yeah, he'll be 36 when that thing expires.
Yeah. So. And again, I like him as a player. I don't like him as a 36-year-old player.
Nope.
Especially with his play style and how long he's been in the league, and the fact that he's been logging such heavy minutes for a rebuilding Anaheim team trying to save John Gibson from getting torched every night.
Right. Which with that being said,
he's been good at it.
He's been damn good at it. And he's literally an even player right now, and plus minus, playing for Anaheim the way they are. That's, to me, that's pretty damn impressive.
It is, but it's not a first 2 seconds of prospect in John Moore.
Right.
Even if he was extended at 6 or extended at, whatever, to me anyways. So there's...
I think if they extended him to that cap value for 5 years and then traded him, I would give that money up.
Yeah.
But not beforehand without a contract in place.
Okay. So here's a player that I wanted us to get for both familiarity and the ability to sit in the press box for games at a time and not be upset about it.
Yeah.
Brett Kulak.
You and I talked about it, and you're right. Yeah. I thought there was a chance he would come back, to be honest.
Me too. And he played with, Gaudreau and Lindholm and Monahan and Backlund. I think he only played with Lindholm for 1 year. I think Rasmus for 1 year. But yeah, so he's played with like the majority of the core of the team for at least 1 year.
Mm-hmm.
So they know him. But depth, we could have used a depth defenseman. I'm not horribly upset we didn't get one, but right. Kulak cost Edmonton, an almost NHL ready prospect in William Lagesson and a second round pick and a seventh. So to me,
it's got to make him feel good.
He's going to be top 4 for them. He's got to be, right?
He would, yeah, absolutely, yeah.
So that's worth it for Edmonton because Edmonton's getting a player who will make an impact in an area that they need. But it wouldn't be worth it for us for the same reason Sherratt wouldn't be worth it for us.
Yeah.
Because is a second round pick worth it for an 8th defenseman for us? Probably not.
No, probably not. And that's the funny thing. I mean, yeah, we say that he's worth it to the Oilers for that reason. But I mean, he's not a 3-4 on any other team in the league.
Pretty much. No. Right. No. I can't even think of one. He's a 3-4. He's a 4 probably on Edmonton.
Yeah.
But he's on any other team he'd probably be a 6.
Who do you think comes off the second pairing in Edmonton to make room for Kulak?
I don't know what their D pairings are looking like nowadays. So obviously Nurse and what's that kid's name? Bouchard.
Oh yeah.
And I don't know if they're playing together. I know Bouchard played a lot of power play time in the last little while.
Right.
I don't know. Is Russell on their? I could see Russell moving down if he's on their second.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because he would be a more effective Russell as far as 200 foot.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, Russell. I mean, we know that we know Chris Russell from his time here.
I love Chris Russell.
I mean, I loved his ability to block a shot, but at the end of the day, that just means that the other team had the puck.
Yeah, it also, to be fair to him, he got put on those defensive zone draws with the defensive zone guy who couldn't win a draw.
True.
So,
yeah, that's fair. Yeah, that's fair.
The Jankowskis of the world.
I mean, but also you get put into that position when you become the guy that can block the puck, and he's got an incredible ability to block the puck.
Tanev does it, but Tanev is
pretty smart about it,
exiting the zone.
Yeah,
and other such guys.
Did you see that play last night where Branson effectively screwed up behind the net, lost the puck, and then immediately came out to block the shot because they knew he better?
Yep.
Like just such responsibility.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Did you see that play last night that I know I showed it to you. I can't even remember who it was. John Carlson from the fucking Washington Capitals. Yeah. Somebody was busting in and just beat his defense partner. Yeah. And he watched he could staring the guy in the eyes.
Yeah.
And just
the only thing he was missing was popcorn. Right? Yeah. He was just like, this is a great show. Yeah. They didn't do a goddamn thing. Nothing.
It was
that was funny.
So
at first I'm like, what an incredible play. And I'm like, actually, you know what? If the defense would have done anything, that play was over.
So my favorite, there's a few more. I wouldn't mind if we got Hag. He came for a sixth. He got traded for a sixth. You know, Hamonic apparently was not liked very well in.
Yeah, that came out of left field when I heard that too.
Yeah, because he was liked here, wasn't he?
As far as I know, but
Yeah.
I mean, unless you hear, trade talks or requesting trades, you don't really hear anything otherwise. Like, I mean, professionals are professional; they're not going to talk about it. And so to be honest with you, this statement. And do you remember who it was that said it? From Vancouver.
I didn't read a name. I heard that it was a reporter saying several players.
Yeah. Yeah, that's super weird. It's weird that professionals would say that.
But I think, from what I read, anyways, it was like COVID restriction related.
Right.
Yeah.
Was
maybe his beliefs on it, or maybe his unwillingness to play for the first little while of this season and for half of last season or whatever it was. Who knows? Like,
I can see that.
This is all me speculating. I have no fucking clue.
And I could see that being why. I honestly think that. Yeah, I don't know. It's such a ridiculous political thing. I think at this point, I think it's time for people to move on with it. But it's unfortunate because I mean, I've always liked him. You've always liked him. Obviously, I liked him more on the Islanders. Was it Islanders?
Yeah, before he came. Yeah, he was more offensive there too, which is weird. He came to Calgary and he was just instantly this like shut down, shot blocking, face punching dude.
Yeah, it's like he met Corey Sarich one time and he's like, you know what? I want to play that game.
Yeah.
And
by the way, I wanted to shout out Corey Sarich for consistently making fun of his own skills on the broadcast.
Sure. He's a beauty on the broadcast.
He really is. And he knows some of these guys too, right? Which I always love. But I always find it funny when he's like watching, Shillington do something silky and he's just like, oh, I could have done that, no problem. Ha 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 ha. Like,
So speaking of Sarich, obviously he's normally paired up with Ryan Leslie. Did you saw the time where Brad had lent him a tie for the show? So did you see the? I'm pretty sure they just did it as a joke, but did you see the interview he had with Brad there just after the trade deadline, or it might have been in the middle of it?
And they were joking. It was just after,
Yeah,
just after about the tie.
Yeah, he's just like, it's a big day. You couldn't have put yourself together with a tie, and Brad just like, I can't remember the first comment, but he's just like, it's a nice tie. Is that a rental, right?
Yeah.
I think it's great that obviously they're having fun, and for a rightful reason, right? Being top of the Pacific, it's good.
Yeah, no, it's fun watching the team, and they were doing it a couple years ago too when they won the West.
Yeah. As long as they're serious in playoffs.
Exactly. So I wanted to go over one more defense trade that I actually really liked. And it was slightly expensive, but it's also the exact piece that I feel that team needed.
Okay.
And that's the Colorado Avalanche.
Oh, yeah.
Acquiring Josh Manson from the Anaheim Ducks for a second-round pick and Drew Helleson, who is getting close to being an NHL-ready prospect, has tons of potential. But Colorado's win now.
Yeah.
And Colorado has this high-octane defense core of, Devin Taves and Cale Makar, and they need somebody else with Eric Johnson to be able to keep the puck out.
Well, that's right. That's right. Get dirty in the corners and work, right?
And this is Joe Sakic at it again.
Yeah.
In the middle of Lindholm going for a first and 2 seconds in the prospect and the NHL defenseman, and Sherrod going for a first in the prospect. Manson who is to me the same player as Ben Sherratt.
Yeah.
Basically
I
goes
think,
for second.
and a little bit more aggressive, I think, physically. And like, did you see his first game in with
You were
the
saying
Habs?
he had like 10 hits or something?
10 hits
I think we
registered.
talked about this last episode.
I think so too. Yeah, 10 hits. Like that's,
But
but again, you know, it's not, you know, the day before or the day of free agency too, right? When you,
yeah, it was like a week.
yeah, when you give yourself that bit of a head start on it, you can get these players for, you know, slightly less than what you would, you know, on the deadline day, and which is great, right? So, and to me, it's just being a smart GM and knowing, you know, you already know you have a situation or a position you want to fill. So why not fill it just before, if you can get away with saving even a third round or a second round or a fourth round pick, why not? Right.
Yeah.
Which is exactly what Brad did with Toffoli, right?
It probably would have cost him more. And like if you look at what we shipped off for Toffoli, with Pitlick, Heineman, a first, a fourth, and a fifth. And that's kind of the same. If you look at it, it's fairly similar to what the package that Anaheim got for Lindholm, but we get 2.5 years of a steal of a deal of a you know, championship caliber 20 goal defensive stud.
Well, that's right, and you know exactly. And at the time of the trade, it's not a rental. That's
2.5 years.
Do you think there's a chance that Boston was given the ability to talk to Lindholm's agent before that trade happened?
100%. That happens all the time.
Yeah, I thought it wasn't allowed to happen.
Say it, but
yeah.
I mean, what did that come out like? Fucking 2 hours later.
Yes, it was the same day, wasn't it?
Like I'm not saying 100% like I know. I'm saying 100% like I'm 99.9% sure that happens.
Yeah.
Fucking consistently, like all the time, because that's happened. I can't even. That happened with Seth Jones, didn't it?
Yeah, it did.
Wasn't there a trade, not a sign and trade, but a trade and sign with Seth Jones in Chicago? Like that happens all the time. But yeah, which is greasy, and I'm assuming that's why they had to give up at least one more piece in that trade, because they had that ability. Probably that other second or something. Yeah. I could see. You know what? I never thought of that, but still, like,
it's still
such a price to pay. Like, fuck.
Yeah, it is.
So, and just quickly, I'm going to throw out there, you know, the Giroux trade. It has nothing to do with all of this defenseman shit we're talking about.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to ask you a question about all of the trades here soon. So Giroux to Florida for Owen Tippett, who's, you know, a strong prospect who's already NHL ready. You know, has strong top six potential, and a 2024 or 2025 first round pick and a third round pick.
Right.
And a fifth.
Oh
no, sorry. It's Giroux and a prospect and a fifth for Tippett, and
that's right.
First and the third. So yeah, it's I think that's good for both teams, because Florida's, you know, contending, and get Giroux to play with fucking Barkov. That's nasty.
That's going to be nasty, and I mean, quite frankly, I think that deal right there, just given the high profile that Giroux was or is, I guess we'll say, but I mean, he was the guy, right? He was the trade piece that everybody was talking about.
This whole time, for weeks.
Yeah, for a long time. I think that was the steal out of all the trades. Personally,
I think Manson was the steal.
Yeah,
but
Giroux,
yeah.
I do understand why you would say Manson is the steal, but as far as high profile elite players, no offense to Manson, he's not that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. No, I agree. And, it's not often, Sherratt, Lindholm, Manson, Hamonic, Braun, Kulak, all these like defensive guys are big name players because
Right.
let's be honest, they don't hit the highlight reel that often and they don't get, people don't pay that much attention to them. People who
No.
don't watch or know a whole bunch about the game, right?
No, they're the ones that, the next morning they open up the Sportsnet app and see who won.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah,
That's
exactly.
it. They count goals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, the Giroux trade I thought was good for both sides actually because Tippett and the first and the third that's a good that's a good return, especially for a guy who was leaving.
Well, that's right.
Well, actually, I guess we don't know if he's leaving because he liked it there, but they weren't going to re-sign him. I don't think.
No, exactly.
So
yeah, and Philly had to make room for Gaudreau, right?
What's that?
Philly had to make room for Gaudreau because.
Oh, shut the fuck up. He was joking, everybody.
Yeah, he is joking.
So, a couple other forwards, or one other forward, Rickard Rakell to Pittsburgh for a second, a goalie prospect, Zach Aston Reese, and good old Dominic Simone.
Right, just a ragdoll, right? Just gets tossed around all the time.
No,
I forgot he was still playing.
Just throw him in there. But Rakell goes to Pittsburgh and plays on the Rickard Rakell, third line player.
Yeah.
On a team that has two scoring lines, now three solid scoring lines and a checking line. So that's pretty strong.
It is pretty strong.
And you know what? They gave up a little bit, but I wouldn't be too upset. We all know where Pittsburgh's at in there. They're in there, you know what? Like we have these three specific guys for the next couple years, and we need to go for it. Well, we have these three borderline generational talents.
Yeah.
And let's do it.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
that's fair enough. That's fair enough. I like that one. And I want your opinion on Marc-Andre Fleury.
All right. On what side?
Just the trade. I not the return. I don't care about that, to be honest. But
what was the return?
Going to Minnesota. I actually didn't write that down.
Yeah, I was going to look up the trade, and for whatever reason I didn't. I heard it, and then I dismissed it because I'm a.
Look it up.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I guess I'll tell you what I think. Between Talbot and Kakinen, I don't think they had a goalie problem.
Right.
And I think that giving up on Kakinen this early in his career, what's he like 2 years in? I think that was a huge mistake because I think Kakinen's got a whole shitload of potential.
Yeah.
But I think that if you look at where Minnesota's at as far as their buyouts of Parise and Suter, and the fact that they're going to have like half the salary cap as every other team next year.
Yeah.
That's an exaggeration. They're going to have like 3/4 of the cap of everybody else, but they're not going to be able to afford the players that they need to put around the likes of Kirill Kaprizov next year. So this was the year. Kakinen, I think they should have tried to move Talbot out maybe, but getting Fleury this year, this is their only year that they can do. So I get it.
I get that. So according to NHL, so did he literally just go for a conditional first round pick and that's it?
Is it? I think the conditional first, now that you say it, I could be wrong, but I think the conditional first is either a first or a second, depending on
signing or
no, on how far they make it.
Really? Yeah. See, I mean, personally,
I could be wrong on that, but that's what I think for some reason.
Yeah. I don't know. I personally myself would rather have Talbot on my team than Marc-Andre Fleury.
See, Well, Talbot's still there.
I know. So I know. So like obviously they're gonna push out Kakinen, but
Kakinen got traded to San Jose.
did he really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, for Jacob Middleton in the 5th.
For fuck,
Which is
just gave him away.
They gave him away so they could make room for Fleury. Yeah,
I don't even know how I didn't see that.
Yeah.
Okay. No, well,
I think that's a fucking joke, to be honest. Like,
wow.
Again, I get why they did it. This is their only season that they can contend because of their stupid buyouts of their stupid Parise and Suter contracts that they stupidly signed.
I was gonna say because of the contracts that they fucking did.
Yeah. But and they have a chance. They have a great team. They really do. And championship level goaltending with Fleury and great goaltending, honestly, with Talbot.
Yeah.
So, because Fleury does that thing where he plays a round and a half of incredible hockey and then shits the bed for a round. So you got fucking Talbot for that.
And well, I mean, let's be honest. Fleury is known for starting the first series hot and losing his net to the backup. He's been doing it for years. Did it to fucking Murray, for fuck's sake, back-to-back seasons.
Yeah.
Where's Murray? In Ottawa, sort of. If they're not sending him down
half the time.
Yeah, if they're not sending him down, like
fucking horrible. Murray's the most overrated player in the entire NHL.
Yeah.
Anyway,
we had Fleury in the Olympics. Even that he watched those games too. Like, Don't get me wrong. He was a great player or a great goalie for Pittsburgh when they were first going for their cup run and really.
The first two cup runs,
for the first few years, he was great. I just don't think he's worth that much to me. I just really don't.
Fair enough.
Nice guy. I honestly hope that Talbot starts ahead of him.
I could see it happening. Well, Talbot pitched a shutout on the first game. Fleury, I'm not sure if Fleury was there yet or if he had just shown up or whatever, but Talbot was like, shit, Marc-Andre Fleury's on the shutout.
Yeah, which I mean Talbot struggled since the All-Star break, right? And I don't know if I talked to you about it, but I know I talked to
he was in
buddy of mine, Jordan. Well, he was like ever since then though. He's really had an issue, like he's nursing like an injury or nursing something. So I hope that he gets back to true form for obvious reasons. Number one being I have him in my fantasy league, as well as I really like him as a goalie, and
I like him as a person.
I absolutely. Yeah.
His first interview with the Flames when he signed,
he was super excited.
But there was something that I don't get with a lot of NHL players, and I fancy myself, a lot of people do, but I fancy myself a pretty good judge of character, even though it's some guy I'm looking at in my phone media. But like I got a real air of just he seemed very genuine and he seemed very sincere about everything he said, whether it was talking about playing for Edmonton in the past, talking about the Flames, and then he kind of continued that, like when he had a bad game or when the team had he wasn't afraid to say what was on his mind.
Right.
And I really appreciated that.
Yeah, I agree. I liked him as a person, even when he played for Edmonton. I didn't like him as a goalie because it was Edmonton. But I agree. He is a genuine human being, and I do wish him,
I wish him very well.
I wish him very well. Unless we go up against him, then fuck him. But I really hope that he ends up with the majority of the starts down the stretch and through the playoffs for as far as they make it.
Yeah. So I think it's getting close to be time to tie it up. I just wanted to ask you a question or two before we leave.
Okay.
First of all, just because we're here and we're Flames fans and people are going to want to hear it. Mark Giordano.
Mark Giordano.
Number 55 in blue and white.
You know
blue
what?
and black, actually, which is really strange.
It's a weird look. Sure, it's not yellow and black. God, those are gross.
Yeah.
I wish him all the luck in the world.
Yep, me too. I mean, except for Toronto, but yeah.
Right. Yeah, no, personally, I wish him all the luck. Like, fuck his team. I'm glad that exactly. I'm glad he gets to play with Brody again. I think it'll be good for both of them.
It'll be good for Toronto too. And like I made a lot in the past of, not wanting Giordano because he's slow and because he's older and he doesn't fit our team anymore. But I think he fits that team. I think that
I don't see why he wouldn't, right? Yeah.
There's a level of professionalism that's needed in that fucking stupid market. And I think he has it.
I think you're right. I think, like, as far as dealing with the media, I think it won't phase him.
Yeah.
At least he won't show that it's phasing him.
Yeah.
I think he'll handle it like a professional, like the professional that he is.
Yeah.
He's a born leader. So yeah, and I'm surprised and I'm not surprised, right? I mean, he fits from the area. He fits the team. He's from the area. Yeah.
Twilight of his career, going home, playing with a partner who he knows and knows him and their tendencies.
Yeah. Gets to play in front of family and friends and
a decade of success together for the most part. And I think that was a good move for them.
I think so too. And
again, 2 seconds. I mean, they got Blackwell too, but 2 seconds and a third.
Yeah. It's still too much, but
still too much, especially with Muzzin probably coming back for playoffs. And then where does Muzzin go? Because Muzzin played with Brody this whole time, right?
That's right.
Yeah. So
that'll be interesting to see who they bring up, because I would think that Muzzin would slot in.
Yeah. Okay. My last question for you. Winners and losers. Who's the biggest winners and the biggest losers of the trade deadline?
Winners and losers.
I know it's a ridiculous question, but
I mean, I could go the homer route and say the Flames. I'm not going to say that we're necessarily the winners. I'm going to say that the Flames did very well.
So Jeff Merrick actually said that he thought the Flames were the winners of the trade deadline.
You mentioned that. I'm honestly going to say the Habs, because I think they added a couple of very key little pieces, just tweaks.
Jost for fucking Nico Sturm.
Right.
That was sneaky, a few days before the trade deadline, pretty sneaky, adding some pounds and some toughness to a team that needs it.
Well, I agree. And when you look at that team, I mean, they were scary good to begin with, but adding that depth is really, really good. And an incredible move moving into the playoffs where you need that depth. And you're gonna need to slot those guys in.
Yeah.
So
losers.
I think Boston.
Oh, really? That was mine too.
Really?
Yeah.
I think they gave too much up for Lindholm, and then. I'm looking at they have no future left.
They have no future left, and the thing is, for me, is like Marchand's 33.
Yeah.
They're
getting to the age where they need to start drafting heavily.
Yeah. Bergeron's, fucking 40, and. Chara's gone, and they've got McAvoy, and they've got a couple of other, guys on the team, but I feel like it's time for them to go and start building around Pasternak and McAvoy.
Yeah. I agree.
What they've done is given away a first and 2 seconds for a guy. I don't even know. Didn't see if there was any trade protection on that deal.
On which
But,
one?
Lindholm.
Oh,
But I just feel like 8 years having a shut down defenseman expiring at 36. Nobody's going to trade for that to begin with.
yeah.
So they've gone and spent a whole bunch of futures on something that if this rebuild I see happening in the next 2 years happens, they won't be able to move him very easy.
Do you want to see the clauses? Or want to hear the clauses?
Yes, I do.
According to Cap Friendly, from 2022 to 2027, they have a no trade clause and a no movement clause.
Oh, total no move.
Total no move, no trade, no move.
And the last 3 years?
The last 3 years, they have the modified no trade.
Which is, does it say there?
What it is? 15 no trade list.
See, that's not bad, but that's also going to be how much is it?
6.5.
$6.5 million, 33-year-old shutdown defenseman with 3 years left.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm assuming they're hoping or banking on there. It is a lot of teams. That's almost half the league, right? Well, it is half the league. Well, close to.
Almost. It's almost half.
Almost half the league. I keep forgetting about these two fucking drifters we brought in. So right now he's sitting at right now the cap hit is at 7.98, but I suspect in 8 years that's going to be closer to 4. Maybe less. So I mean, it won't be such a big hit. Hopefully, I don't know. But yeah, that's. I mean, it's like the clause section is full on the whole.
Oh yeah, no,
I'm just like, holy shit, that just blew me away.
So for me, that's why Boston lost, because they, and like I'm far from a professional at this, but I think that they misread their situation.
I think so too. Yeah, I don't think they're in a position to get out of the second round, even with their moves.
Yeah, and the only reason they get out of the first round is because they might face fucking Toronto.
Right. That really would be great.
Yeah, no,
that would make for great theater.
Yeah,
I'd watch that.
I'd watch it too. So the reason that Boston is my loser is the opposite of the reason why the two teams that I have tied for my winners are my winners.
Okay.
Do you have any guesses?
I'm going to say one team's going down, the other teams are climbing up as far as the prospect pool and the team that they're developing.
They read their position properly and cashed in on this ridiculous defenseman market, and that would be the Anaheim Ducks and the Montreal Canadiens.
So it's
an embarrassment of riches, and also I include Toffoli in that, even though it was, and I think we did really well on that. But I think that them reading where they were and how long they were going to have Sherratt and Toffoli, and what they could get, like what did they get? They got 2 firsts. 2 prospects, 2 fourths, a 5th, and Pitlick for Toffoli and Sherratt.
Yeah,
that's 2 firsts and 2 prospects alone. Like that's a pretty decent haul. And then Anaheim got a first, 3 seconds, a prospect, 2 prospects, and an NHL defenseman for 2 NHL defensemen.
So it's I'm glad you said what you did, because I normally, just for whatever reason, I normally don't include the selling teams when I pick my winners and losers. but I agree with you 100% that Montreal did very well. Have you?
Oh, I forgot Kulak too. So
Yeah.
that's another second. Yeah.
That's right. So if you look at their next 2 or 3 rounds, like this summer they have 2 firsts, 2 seconds, 3 thirds, 3 fourths, 5th, 6th, and 7th.
Montreal.
Oh, sorry, 2 7th. Yeah, Montreal.
Yeah, that's fucking absurd.
That's absurd. It really is. And then the following year they have 2 firsts, 1 second, 1 third, 1 fourth, 2 fifths, 1 sixth, and 1 seventh.
And Caulfield, Suzuki, Romanov, blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
In 5-6 years, this team is going to be crazy.
They're going to be. Yeah, that's.
Look up what Anaheim's draft looks like the next couple of years.
Yeah,
I mean, keeping in mind they have Drysdale and Zegras and.
Yeah, they're okay, right? Okay, so next or this year, I guess 2022, they have 2 first, 2 second, no third, which I'll look into where that went. 1 fourth, 2 fifth, 1 sixth, which is not theirs. It's Nashville's and no 7th. And then next year they have 1 first, 3 seconds, 2 thirds. Yeah, so I mean, it's reasonable. It's not like Montreal. But that being said, they have more of a center to build around as far as established players at the moment.
I agree, and yeah, I mean they both teams read where they were. Yeah. Now it was easier for Montreal because of the whole Weber Price situation.
Yeah,
and it was easier for Montreal because they're at the bottom. Yeah. Anaheim is like borderline battling for a playoff spot, but they're
where Calgary used to be, right?
Yeah,
battling they're not for that 12th to 8th spot.
Yeah, and if Calgary had done, a few years before they did what Anaheim just did, then we'd probably be looking a lot better a couple of years ago, right?
Yeah, it would have been great. I don't even want to get into that. It's been a depressing conversation for about a decade.
Yeah. And now we're talking about Anaheim, who, speaking of depressing conversations for a decade.
Yeah, right? Yeah. Fuck you, Anaheim.
But yeah, those are my winners. And it's funny that we both had Boston as a loser because, like, on the surface, Lindholm is the third best player on the entire trade board. Giroux, Toffoli, and then Lindholm, I'd say.
Yeah.
So they got the third biggest fish on the trade board. However, they paid way too much.
They paid too much, and it's meaningless.
It's meaningless because they're not going anywhere.
Yeah, like they won't be relevant the entire time his contract is there.
Yeah.
Really. I mean, yeah, they're going to make playoffs. I get that, but like as far as contenders, like you don't trade for a piece like that unless you're a contender. Yeah. And if they truly like at their management office believe they're a contender, then maybe the management needs to go because they're not. I don't think. I mean,
I think this is their last year of being a contender.
Right.
And they could have traded for 1 year of Lindholm.
Right.
But instead they traded for 1 year of Lindholm and then signed him for
an incredible contract. Yeah, I guess you know what? I mean, given the pieces, like I mean you've got Marchand, you got the guys that are there, I believe, have what it takes to win rounds. They've been there before.
Not the cup.
Not the cup. No, I don't think they exactly. I think I can honestly see them being in the second round.
Yeah.
No matter really who they play, really.
And I hate Marchand, but if they decide to do what we both think they should do, it sounds like Marchand is a very, very, very valuable piece to a team that can easily, to be fair, easily pick up more than they gave away for Lindholm.
Yeah.
but they're still missing those pieces. They just got different ones.
That's right.
And you know,
that's a hard sale though for me though at his age.
Right? What's that?
That would be a hard sale for me at his age though, because you're talking they would have to do that at next year's deadline, I think, to get those pieces.
Yeah. But he's still on pace for over 100 points.
Oh yeah, no, he's still a very effective player, and obviously it would have to be at the deadline to be a rental.
Yeah,
to get those pieces back.
Yeah, like I hate him. I dislike him greatly as a person. I think it's a shame.
Way to tone down your hatred. Yeah. Well done.
Well, I think it's a shame that he feels like he has to do what he does at his age and with his skill level.
Yeah.
He has undeniable amount of skill, really, and there's a way to be a pest without being an actual piece of shit.
Yeah. I think he could have
for people's health.
If he would have kind of knocked the shit off, I'm going to say 5 years ago, the amount of respect that he would garner right now would be incredible.
Tenfold. And so obviously we're Flames fans, and I'm going to go out and make the comparison because so many people have in the past. And I had a buddy who's a Canucks fan who consistently kept saying, I would never want Tkachuk on my team because he's such a piece of shit, blah, 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 blah. I'm happy we got fucking Oli Ulevy instead because that makes fucking sense. And I'm just like, okay, but like, and he's like, he's just Marchand. You hate Marchand. Why do you like Tkachuk? Because he's got a Flames jersey on. And I'm like, no, I like Tkachuk because if you look at what he's done in the last 2-3 years, his father sat him down and told him to smarten the fuck up.
Yeah,
a few years back, 3 years back, I think. His father sat him down, and since then, he less penalties, less elbows, less reverse.
He had an elbow last night, though. I'm surprised.
Yeah, but
no, I do know what you mean. I do know what you mean.
Less purposeful shit.
Yeah.
This year he hasn't even been that much of a pest, which kind of sucks.
But
he doesn't need to be.
I think. I mean, he hasn't been in the sense that Matthew Tkachuk can be.
Yeah.
But he really has been all around the net. He's been spraying goalies. He's been tapping goalies. He's really getting in their brain.
Yeah.
He's just going about it a different way.
Yeah.
And I appreciate what he's doing. And you're right. There was after that one. What was it against Detroit, right, where he tapped the guy in the calf with a stick? Was it that play when Brad took him out and kind of held him up by the scruff of his shirt in front of the media and said, "He's fucking sorry. Tell him you're sorry," kind of thing.
Well, didn't Keith do that?
No, that was Brad.
Okay, because I know Keith,
but I'm sure, but no, like Brad actually marched him out in front of the media to apologize.
Oh yeah, I remember. Okay,
on air, and I'm like I'm just like, Dad Brad just like kicked ass there. Like he's just like, my dipshit son has something to say.
Yeah.
And so his dipshit son said what he had to say, and they moved on.
Yeah.
And that's all that had to be done.
And like honestly, I use McElbow or whatever as a joke because I don't think Connor's a dirty guy. I think that he has the occasional dirty.
That's not what you told me.
Oh, come on. But it's the same as Tkachuk now. Maybe 4 years ago, Tkachuk was pretty fucking dirty.
His first 2 years, he was pretty aggressive with trying to be a pest. He was trying to make a name for himself, and he did.
He did, and he slew foot, and he did elbow and knee on knee and stuff like that, and he got sat down by Brad and by Keith and by his team boycotted him, and I mean, and he's since those things have happened, he's smartened the fuck up. He also has other people on the team who can stand up.
Yeah,
Because,
that's right. Yeah, he's a top line player. He doesn't need to be the guy fighting. He doesn't need to be.
Yeah.
I mean, he can stick up for himself. Yeah, he can still stick up for himself if need be. He can, do the stinky glove, do all that fun stuff. It's great.
Yeah.
I still stand by everything he did to Drew Pouty.
Yeah, me too. Because Drew did it right first or back.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I stand by that one
too. Like I honestly feel like that was his elbow was not up. His elbow was down.
Never once. Yeah, never once. I agree.
His elbow was down. The guy's face was at his hip level. So his elbow was going to be there.
That's right. Yeah, that's where your arms are when they're down.
Yeah,
that's what happens.
But yeah, no. And sorry, trying to tie all this into Marchand. Marchand had the long suspensions and had the fucking big fines and had the talkings too from the league, and I'm sure from his GM and his coaches and the media and all that. And this fucking year he goes and pops a goalie in the head.
Yeah, that one. There's more to that story than we're being told, I think. But
there is.
But
at the same time, he should know better. He skated from across the fucking ice to do it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like he had lots of time to think better of that, and he didn't.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Fair point. Yeah. Fair point.
So yeah. Anyways,
so
Boston should rebuild. That's the point of.
So on that note, Boston rebuilding. I'm gonna bring it in, and bring it around. Where have you shown anybody that beautiful new picture you have on the back there? That another absolute beauty from Ty.
I don't know if you can see that. The lighting's pretty.
Oh yeah, no, it's pretty good.
But anyways,
I love it.
It's our logo. If anybody wants the canvas or
the skylight canvas,
he's got some good flags. I don't know if you have your flag up.
He's got flags. He's got hats now.
Shirts.
He's got short sleeve, long sleeve. He's got hoodies.
Yeah.
No, he's just building his repertoire every day, and I'm loving it.
Kennington Designs. Check him out on Facebook. We'll have his link in the description. And remember to also give us a like and a subscribe, and let us know what you think of whether it be Boston rebuilding, who your winners and losers of the trade deadline are. What you think of us. Maybe you think we lost out on Sherratt or on Lindholm or whatever. Let us know. Let us know what you think. Let us know what you think of Toffoli so far, Järnkrok so far. And for the love of God, let us know why Monahan sucks and doesn't deserve to play.
Wow. On that note, I'm going to bid the world a good night for the evening. On behalf of myself and Dylan, let's go Flames. Love it.
Cheers.